What is up, everyone? John here with Motivation Theory Running. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Lap 5, Episode 5 of the Motivation Theory Run Club Hangout, Tuesday edition. Tuesday at 5 Eastern. I get myself situated right now. What's going on, West Virginia Running Don? How are you, sir? It's good to see you. Very good to see you. Trying to get myself situated now with the chat. Stuff can be hard. What's going on? So, new week. Running for me has been great. It has been great. I had a great week last week. How many miles did I run? A little over 30, 32-ish, around in there. Felt great. Wanted to do a lot more, but just family stuff and just giving my wife time that she needs to do the things she needs to do. And just kind of worked out that's where I ended up. Progressing towards getting towards 70 miles. I'm not going to maintain 70 miles, but I'd like to hit 70 miles and then bring it back down, then hit 70 miles and bring it back down a couple times just to do it. It's something I wanted to do for a long time, and I have not done it yet. Tasmania Running, good morning to you. I assume that it is morning where you are. It's probably Wednesday, correct? Welcome to the stream. Best races, yes. So this hangout, we're going to be talking about best races in the world. I'm going to go through a couple lists that I found online just to kind of talk about some of them. I know we have a global audience, which is fantastic. Makes us much smarter to have that diversity in background and location. So we're going to be discussing some of the best races. I'm going to go down this list, and hopefully some people here can get some feedback. They have a little bit of a write-up here on each one of these. And I also have some running facts that I want to go through that I found kind of cool. I'm going to go down through those and see if anybody can say they know those things. Some of these ones were weird. Rosserv. Am I saying that right? Rosserv123. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. Get myself situated now. On the running the stream part of this. That's the hard part for me is multitasking. If you've never streamed before and have the software up, and then I want to be able to look at stuff, it's crazy. And I also want to look at the chat. So I'm just trying to get everything situated now. It would help. I'm doing it off my laptop. It would help to have multiple monitors. It would make this much, much easier. So how's everyone doing out there? Go ahead and type a 1 in the chat if you got your run done already. Should have. It's 5 o'clock. But I haven't. I haven't got my run. You guys know I'm a late runner. I don't ever get my runs until late. I'm not a morning runner. As much as I want to be, I would love to be a morning runner. But it just doesn't ever work out that way. It's kind of strange how that happens, but it does not work out for me. Let me get back over here to the chat. I guess there's not a lot of us in here, so you could have just said, you probably could have told me what you're running. What was your run today? So it's Monday. Should have been a nice, easy run, right? I'm hoping to maybe just crank out 4 or 5 easy miles today. My foot's a little sore today. I don't know what's been going on. I think running out on the trail the other day kind of aggravated it a little bit. It's not bad. I mean, I'm still probably in the 80s percentages of my foot feeling all right, but it's definitely it's getting there, but it's a little sore. Got 7 miles done. Well, that's a good Monday. What, Tuesday? Well, I'm thinking it's Monday. It's Tuesday. I'm losing track of the days. So yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, I'll probably do 5 to 6 then. Now that I actually know what day it is. Yesterday was supposed to be a a rest day for me. And then I just decided to get my run on. My wife went out with the kids. They had to go do some stuff, pick up some essentials. The kids sit in the car and watch the baby sometimes because the baby wants to get out too. Mama goes in and buys some stuff, and then they come home. So they gave me some time and I got my run in, even though I wasn't supposed to. Sorry, my daughter's texting me. All right. So today I wanted to talk about, I want to give some time for everybody to funnel in here. Well, Frank said I got an easy 10 in. An easy 10. Is 10 ever easy? I'm not sure. 10's a good run. 10 used to be like my base run. Back when I was full on, right over there. Sorry, Skylar's coming to grab her shoes. 10 used to be like my standard run. If I could get 10 miles in, I was happy. And what had ended up happening is I would just end up running 3. Did I put your shoe up on the thing? Hold on, guys. Oh, let me grab a shoe for her. See, that's what happens. You got people at home, you got to do stuff. That's my fault. I put her shoe over there. It's usually on the shelf that I just put together. Brand new shelf over there. So 10 used to be my standard run. I would go out, I would run 10 and come back. And what ended up happening is I would just do that like 3 times a week, and I wouldn't do any real speed work. I would just end up running, 3 or 4 10s a week, and I wouldn't really push real hard. I got to the point where I was just kind of slowing down because I wasn't really pushing myself. I just would go out. Not that I wasn't running them fast. I mean, I was running them fast, especially for what I do now. But, long story short, I love running 10 miles. I don't know what it is about 10. It's like my favorite distance to go in training. So, I know some of you may have just joined us and missed what I said. Today I'm going to go down a list. We're just going to kind of browse this list of 50 best races in the world. It's put on by Runner's World. I have another list too that's put on by Red Bull. That's a much shorter list. I'm going to go through and see if you guys are familiar with these races. I think about races all the time now. It's funny. I never really thought a ton about races before the kind of pandemic took over. But now that we can't race, I think about it a lot more. So there's a lot more time to plan. And again, as always, this is not set in stone. If you guys want to ask questions in chat, please feel free. Ask questions. Anything goes in these streams. So let me see if I can get transfer over here. Transition. So here we go. Let me bring up the browser for myself. So when I'm looking at this, I see races that I'm not familiar with. And this is all distances. Pull the chat back up again. This is all distances here. And so number 1 on Runner's World's big, on its top races in the world, the Big 5 Marathon. It says it's a 26.2 mile safari through a spectacular savanna on one of Africa's Big 5 game reserves. Offers a chance to spot elephants, rhinos, buffaloes, lions, and leopards as you pound an undulating dirt underfoot, the undulating dirt. Prepare for free fence, complete fence free. Maybe I put on my glasses. Complete immersion into one of nature's most incredible environments. Now, that doesn't sound super awesome to me. I don't know. What do you guys think? We got the Paris Marathon, which is pretty self-explanatory. Has anybody run any of these? Or does anybody want to? Go ahead, chime in if you let me know if you've run any of these. The Dipsea Race, America's oldest trail race. So this is the first time I'd ever heard of this race. America's oldest trail race is a mere 7.4 miles long, but so steeped in its own unique mythology, it has to be on every runner's bucket list. So when I read this one, I started looking into it. This is one I'd actually be extremely interested in running. I like some history. Tasmania here and says some good lions and leopards sound like good motivation to run. Yeah, I don't know if I want to go run anywhere where I'm the prey. That is a lot of motivation, but I feel bad enough running in Virginia when I know bears are out, especially when they have all the warnings that there have been bear sightings, and I kind of have that anxiety just raising my blood pressure, my heart rate, and my blood pressure as I'm running. I don't know if I can handle that. The champs at least would be sweet. Frank, yeah, I think I saw that on one of these lists. The Niagara Falls Marathon. Obviously, that one goes through 2 countries, starting in Buffalo and finishing at the edge of the falls in Canada. That would be pretty cool. I've never been to Niagara Falls. That would be pretty interesting for me. I could put that on the list. Star Wars Half Marathon. And again, I think these go all around the world. That doesn't interest me a whole lot unless I was just down there with the family, and they would never let me get away with that while I'm down there with them. Vienna City Marathon. Tasmania says Australia has some dangerous animals, but no predators on the land. Let me move that over a little bit so I can read it on the land. Yeah, I learned all I need, or not all I need, but all my knowledge about Australia and its animals comes from Steve Irwin. Miss that guy. I used to watch him all the time. So you guys got like all the deadly snakes there, which is one thing I cannot stand is snakes. And we got a lot of snakes here in Virginia, not a lot of deadly ones, but I still don't like coming across a snake on the trail. Frank said Niagara Falls starts with the Peace Bridge, but then it's pretty downhill. That would be beautiful, I think. I think, when I think of races, I've been conditioned to start thinking about ultras, and then really out west in America, like so out in California and Utah and things like that. That's like where I think about mountains when I start thinking about beauty. But there's so many cool places that have like stories behind them and such cool things to see that I during this time, during this pandemic stuff, and the more I've been researching, looking at this race, there's just so much to offer around the world and even around the United States. All different distances and stuff like that. So I'm starting to kind of open my mind a little bit to try some of this stuff. It'd be really cool. I could, whenever travel gets back to normal, could take the family someplace. It'd be cool. I'm very interested in this stuff now. So Tasmania Running says, yeah, always run with a compression bandage just in case. Yeah, I don't even know how to even handle the stress of that. Around here we do have big snakes, and it's more about just being scared. And but I could imagine actually have a snake that could bite you like it's, pretty soon you better get some help or you're in trouble. You really got to know what you're doing out there and know how to react to not end up dead. Frank says it stays out of Niagara Falls, USA for the most part, I think. Niagara Falls, USA is really ugly industrial. I've never been up there. I know my wife really wants to go, but I have not been up there. Niagara Falls, Canada is great. Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to make that trip here this year or not. Probably not. This year would not be the year to try to plan that. So they got number 7. We ran at the French Riviera Marathon in France. It's one of their largest marathons. Hugging the coast. Now this is a race as a ultra marathoner. The Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc is one I have a lot of interest in. Not that I'll ever run it because you got to accumulate points and there's a lot of travel and it's just a huge thing. I mean, I watched a documentary here recently about some gentlemen that I'm not sure if they were from the States or where they were from. For some reason I can't remember. And they had to go through accumulating the points and get into the race. And I think one of them there's 3 of them, one of them ended up dropping. He was the guy who actually kind of spawned everyone to do it. And he ended up dropping out. It's actually a really interesting story. I should probably look that up so I can pass that all to you on the YouTube community page. It's really good. Frank said rattlers are out for sure. Yeah, I don't think we have rattlers, and we don't have a ton of poisonous snakes in Virginia. I think we only got maybe 2 or 3 poisonous snakes. We have a ton of black snakes, water snakes, and that's what ends up scaring me when I run around on the water. If you guys watch my videos, I run around a lot of water, and what will typically happen is those snakes will come out and sun on the rocks, and it's always really close to the water, and they just will shoot them. And some of them are 5 and 6 feet, that big around, and they just scare the living you know what out of you because of the way that they just quickly move. Welcome to the stream, Arlene. Arlene said, would you consider a stage race like a 250 mile in 8 days across Scotland, Cape with Fra? I would love that. There's nothing that sounds more interesting to me. First off, than going to Scotland. My wife and I talk about going overseas a lot, and Ireland always comes up, Scotland always comes up. But running those stage races to me seems like a ton of fun. There's just so much logistics, and so the part with me that's so hard is dealing with just logistics and stuff. I don't have a ton of running friends. I have a large running community, but I don't have a lot of close friends to me that run. So I'm not part of any kind of local run club. I do have some friends that run, but they're not local. So trying to get them to be part of that and to kind of help crew, and it just seems like a lot. Even Western States 100 seems like a bear to even tackle if I knew enough people. If I ever got into Western States, I'd probably end up having to put it out to this community to see who would want to join in and help do that. So to answer your question, absolutely. One of my kind of low-key fantasies or dreams, if you will, is to kind of run across Virginia or another state. I don't know why that is it's always been in my mind. I think about running across Virginia all the time, but then I start thinking about the logistics. So I never really seriously think about it, but it's something that's always on the front part of my brain thinking about it. Posner 2 says, we have some beautiful trails here in California, and I'm fortunate to be within 5 minutes of a great trail system to train, but nothing beats running in the woods of New England in the fall. I can imagine. Yeah, if you're in California, you have the opportunity to run a lot of really cool stuff. And I see people out in Utah or Oregon, Colorado, California and things like that. I think that have a ton of really cool trails. I won't complain. I have some really good trails that are very close to me. They're not the huge mountainous, 10,000 footers or 12,000 footers. I mean, Virginia, I think the highest we have is 5,000, and I can drive a couple hours and get to one of those. But the trails I go on are beautiful. You guys see them in the videos. I won't complain, but it would be really nice to have, a couple 10 or 12s, 14s near to go run, because it's just beautiful when I see people post the videos. Arlene says, also in the U.S., the Cocodona, 250 in Arizona. That sounds interesting. It's a staged or just Frank's asking if it's staged or just a straight 250. I'm also interested in doing the trails, the big long trails, the AT, and what's the one in California that I've seen documentaries? They made a movie about it. Running those, that would be awesome. It sounds miserable, but it sounds awesome. So the Seawees half marathon sounds really yoga centered. My mom would love that. I just thought about sending her that. My mom's a yoga instructor, so she would absolutely love that. The Moscow Marathon, never knew. I think I've heard of the Moscow Marathon, but I don't know much about it at all. The Inca Trail Marathon. It's a once in a lifetime stuff, measured, marshaled, and supported 26.2 starting at the, not even going to try to pronounce that, ruins. Following breathtaking in both senses. Classic Inca site. So that would be really cool. I'm shocked that they still allow you to do stuff that through. I know they locked up all of the ability to fly drones and stuff there. I think they're trying to keep people from destroying those really cool sites. I've never seen any of the Inca ruins or the Inca Trail, so that would be awesome. That would be a really cool race. Yeah, the PCT. There you go, Frank. Arlene says that Cocodona has a 120-hour time limit. Holy smokes. That is a long time to be on your feet. With 250 miles. See, I don't know if it's one of those ones for 250 miles, is that something like you get a bunch of hundreds under your belt and then you do it? Because when people ask me hey, what do I need to do before I do an ultra? I don't think you need to do 10 marathons. I think, well, as long as you're getting your training in, you could run it. You don't have to go through certain races to get to that. So I don't even know how to pronounce it. Fra Marathon. Basically downhill. Starts at 500 meters, finishing at, goes uphill at 2,100 meters. Punchy. It says it will be your inevitable personal worst. So if you want to run your slowest marathon, pick number 12 there, the Fra Marathon. I know I'm butchering that. But it's in the Swiss Alps, so that would be amazing. Yeah, the Pacific Crest Trail really interests me, just because I've seen so many documentaries out it. I see all the hikers and stuff, and it just is super cool. Maybe I've fallen in love with the stories that people have told being on it. So I'm thinking I more want to hike it than run it. Now the AT, I want to say a bunch if you talk about the entirety, but most of the ultras that I've run in the area are in some part on the AT around here. So I couldn't imagine, just the parts that I've run on the AT here, I could not imagine running for 40, 50 days, whatever it is. Those are the fast people. I could imagine running 2-3 months. That's just insane. Because the AT is brutal. Absolutely brutal. 13 through 13-17, the majors. There were 5 more marathon majors besides London. And no global bucket list is complete without them. So you got the New York, so it's listing a bunch of them. So all the majors. The New York City Marathon, which I'd love to run. The Boston Marathon, obviously. The Berlin Marathon, obviously. Tokyo Marathon and the Chicago Marathon. So those are all ones that I think anybody who runs marathons would absolutely love. So those are a no-brainer. The Galapagos Marathon would be very good. Now this one I found very interesting. The Mount Everest Marathon. I appreciate that. I can't say your username, but I appreciate that. The Mount Everest Marathon, the world's highest 26.2, starts at 5,184 meters, close to Everest Base Camp. But it's basically downhill. So that's pretty cool. Surroundings are as truly epic as you'd expect in the Himalayas, and following the tragic events in Nepal this year, you'd be supporting the recovery of the local economy. So that's actually really cool for the people who can travel there. But I think it'd be difficult. Obviously, this year for everybody would be extremely difficult to travel to any of this. But to run the Mount Everest Marathon would be beautiful. It's definitely a place I'd love to go. This one was pretty interesting too. We ran it, Marathon du Médoc. Sure, I butchered that. This is where they basically pump you full of wine and cheese and stuff. So, that's like the baby brother of marathon or an ultra marathon if you're just eating. No worries, keep on running. I appreciate it. Gonna keep on running. I saw a shirt today that had Forrest Gump on it, and it said, I just kept running 2020. I got to get that shirt. Because that just sums up everything in 2020. I just kept running. It doesn't matter. I'm going to keep running no matter what's going on. The Two Oceans race definitely sounds pretty cool. Running around water to me is so healing. That's one of the things I love about running where I run. I get to run around waterfalls and streams and things like that, which just makes it so much more interesting. I could imagine running where I run now. It would still be cool, but if it didn't have the water, I would just be running out in the middle of the woods, which is not terrible, but the water just makes it so much better. And it makes me stop a lot, which probably helps my training a little bit. I run a little bit less hard than I normally would, and I take my time and just enjoy nature. Now that I know, so maybe you guys have heard this. So I saw Kofuzi posted a video today talking about the changes to Strava, and he talked a little bit about something I had no clue that existed. They have a Strava Wankers Twitter page, and basically it's a bunch of people taking screenshots of people's posts and kind of making fun of them. I don't support it. I think it's kind of ridiculous to shame anybody, but basically they're calling out people that are doing ridiculous things on, claiming PRs and stuff like that, and having rest spots. Basically saying I ran an 18-minute 5K, but then you look at your lapse time and it's like 40 minutes and stuff like that. But then they're also just making fun of people who don't know what they're doing on the app, which I don't approve of. But I noticed that people are starting to go through. What they do is they'll go through and they'll look at all of your stats, and like if you stop and pause in the middle of your runs, I'm like, holy smokes! If people start looking at that online, I'm not claiming anything. I upfront with all my stuff, but I stop when I run. I'm filming and I'm doing all kinds of nonsense and silliness out there. So, hopefully they don't start to call me out for that. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but I wouldn't recommend the group. I don't think it's good to make fun of people. Just I like to build people up, not tear them down. Frank said, "Is the We Ran It thing a race company like Rock and Roll?" Let me see if it says it. Sorry. I've been a runner. In fact, I don't know. This race that traces a stunningly beautiful circuit of over 50 Bordeaux Chateau, with each aid station serving up the region's famous Planck as well. See, I don't even know what that is, as well as the rather more prosic water. The big dilemma is whether to go for an even split, have the same amount of wine throughout, or a negative split. It sounds like a big party to me, because if you're having wine the whole time, it sounds like a beer marathon, but with wine. Arlene says, marathon investigation has found a lot of cheaters. Absolutely. And just so to be clear, I don't have a problem with people investigating people who are claiming things. Like if you're actually racing, if you're doing virtual races, or you're claiming, fastest known times and segments and stuff like that, you're chasing segments, and like that stuff's legitimate. You're fair game if you're claiming that you did certain things. And you're not, if you're lying about it. I don't have a problem with that at all. What I don't like is just the part, and let me just be clear about that. I don't like the part of just saying, hey, this guy forgot to switch his run from bike to run, so it looks like he was running 3-minute miles and stuff like that, and they posted, or they post a workout that says I did 100 push-ups, but they posted that to Strava. Like, I don't care what people post to Strava, and I don't investigate it. I don't look. I don't care if you ran 10 miles over 4 hours or 10 miles over an hour and a half. It doesn't matter to me. Good for you. You ran 10 miles. But if you said, I ran 10 miles in 30 minutes and it's in my new PR, well, you're going to get called out. I mean, that's just going to happen. So I just want to be clear about that. I don't have a problem people investigating people, and they have done that. There's been a lot of people that have done a lot of sleuthing to figure that stuff out. So again, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't like the making fun of people to make fun of people's stuff. That's where I have a problem, especially when they don't know. You're taking something like Strava. So I have a problem, like if you're posting something on Strava that is just private to Strava, and then you're taking that screenshot and then post it publicly. There's just a lot of stuff I think is just integrity based that you shouldn't do. Sorry, my phone keeps going off on here. So, I don't think I answered your question, Frank. I went through all that talk. I'm not sure that it is I would click it, but I don't feel like going down that rabbit hole. So look it up. Yeah, I'm interested in that too, because it is kind of a weird name. The Two Oceans Race, the North Pole Marathon, self-explanatory. That would be pretty cool. Volcano Marathon. That would be pretty cool. The Western States 100. Now that's right in my way. That is the tip of the spear for my bucket list right there. Western States 100. There's part of me that wants to run that race so bad, but then there's part of me that's sad if I do run it, then I won't be able to look forward to running it. I look forward to trying to qualify and get in and run that race one day. It's going to be hard, and I was actually thinking about it the other day, like again, when I was talking about like who would I pull together, because I look at all these documentaries and they always have like these crews and the teams that come and support them, and it's just it seems like a lot to ask of people to travel if they're not out there already. So maybe there's a lot of kind people that do that. I know that there's some people who do that with races. They'll go out, they'll volunteer, and they'll say they'll crew people even if you don't know them. So they'll sign, and you sign up, and you'll have crew. You'll get to meet them. So I think that'd be kind of cool. So selfishly, I'm going to say that's number one right there. You can argue with me though. I know other people have their favorites. Eager Ultra Trail, stage in the shadow of the mighty. Is it Eager? It's the beauty of a beast with 6,700 meters of ascent over 101K. Yeah, it looks like it's brutal. Kilimanjaro Marathon. Didn't even know that existed. That would be cool. Antarctic Ice Marathon. Frank said, it seems like too much of a pain to get in. I really don't want to deal with lotteries and wait lists. I agree. Absolutely. Hard Rock 100 is one I definitely want to do. Arlene. Absolutely. It's definitely one I want to do. Although that I have heard that it's changed over the years. It's not the same Hard Rock. Well, maybe that's Leadville. Leadville's changed. Leadville was bought out. I do want to do Leadville and Hard Rock. Those are definitely probably my top three. Frank said, yeah, go back to what you said, Frank. There is part of that. So the Marine Corps Marathon was like that too. So I've been running the Marine Corps Marathon back before it used to sell out in like 5 minutes. And basically what you would do is you'd run the local races that were part of the Marine Corps Marathon, and then you would get your ticket, and then you could sign up, and it was easy. And then all of a sudden it blew up. I don't even know why. Like it was like after maybe the second or third year I ran it, it just blew up and you couldn't get in. Luckily, the 2 years I had to go into I signed up in time to get in before the whole thing just blew up. But I got into the runners club, and now I don't have to worry about it. I get a spot every year. But like, had that turned into just a lottery every year, I probably would have stopped running it, because I'm the same way. Like, I don't like having to do that. Like, I'll go down to run Richmond or something like that, Richmond Marathon, where you don't have these lotteries. I don't like dealing with that. I like knowing what races I'm going to run and being able to plan for them. And I know a lot of people, they'll find out. They do the lottery in time for people to train. But there is part of me that just kind of is kind of a curmudgeon that wants to say, you know what, I don't want to do it because it's too much of a pain. Because you have to run qualifiers. And then, you get qualifiers. If you run multiple qualifiers, I think you get multiple tickets. And then depending on how many times you've entered, you get more tickets with that. And it becomes a pain. And I completely agree with you on that. WV Running Don said the videos on YouTube of some of these cool races are very cool to watch and very inspiring. It is, and that's I make all these lists of races I want to do, and then I look on YouTube, and then I read these lists like this, and it's just like there's so many races around the world that are phenomenal races that I probably will never be able to experience, which is which is sad. But it doesn't mean I won't dream. They got the Red Bull 400. I'm going to switch over to their list here in a second. Frank said, I'm not fast enough for a golden ticket. Yeah, I haven't looked too much into the times you have to do to qualify. I think they have some 50 milers that you can qualify if you're super fast, I think, and then they have hundreds that you can finish to qualify. But I haven't looked a ton into that yet, just because I don't. Part of me is in love with the just thinking about it, and then eventually I'll get there. I think when I feel like I'm in shape enough to even worry about it is when I'll actually really start to investigate. Arlene M said, I hate how the costs have gone up. The MCM used to be $80. Yeah. Now it's $180. It is getting way too expensive. That's one of the things that's kind of irritating now. It's getting really, really expensive. And they're giving away tons of tickets to different groups and stuff like that. Not that I have a problem, again, with all the charities. They're giving away, and the reason they're making a ton of money. They have their own building. They're making a ton of money. They've turned it into a business, obviously, and it's costing a lot. It is a huge production, and it is a really great race. I don't have any clue what the costs are to put that race on, but they used to put the same race on, like you said, for $80, and now it's 2.5 times that. And I see that with all races. Even these ultras are crazy. They're getting out of control. I don't know why. Again, I haven't looked into it a ton. It's probably be a good topic for a video to see why the costs go up. But I think there's just a lot of overhead costs with running them as a business as they start to grow. Bronzer said, what tips would you suggest? Let me switch back over and talk to you guys for a minute. Prosper 2 said, what tips would you suggest in regards to finding and choosing your first ultra to enter? It depends on what your strategy is. So if you want something local, if it's just about running an ultra and you just want to get one under your belt to see if you can do it, I would choose something local. That's what I did. I think the first one I ran was Belmonte. It was a 50 miler, which is actually a double marathon over 2 mountains. It was local, so it's only about 2 hours away. I did go stay in a hotel, but it is close because I was asking my family to go with me. I had one of my childhood best friends. She came. She brought her husband and her kids, and her parents were helping crew. So I was trying to do something that kind of was convenient for everybody and that I would be supported because running your first ultra is a big deal, and it is hard. It's not an easy feat, but it's doable. The first race I had definitely made it through it because I had all of those people supporting me, and my best friend, my childhood best friend growing up, she paced me for 19 miles of the 52 point whatever. So I would say probably choose something local. Maybe choose something that it doesn't have a really bad elevation profile, and that would just be me. Unless you feel like you're just super in shape and you got it. I mean, some people don't have a choice. I don't know how many people out west in the States have a choice of being able to avoid mountains and stuff like that. But here in Virginia, we have more flat races, and I would look. They have them rated. You can see from I think it's 1 to 5, and you could find something. So I would just probably look around locally. Read a lot of back in the day it would be race reports. So those of you who've been running for a long time, you'd read a lot of race reports, people posting their blogs, and you can still do that. I would read, you could search on good races for beginners, and absolutely. So Frank made a good point here, and I've said that in one of my videos before. It says make sure you're trained for the course. If you do mostly road miles, that was one of the mistakes I made in my first one. I did a lot of road running and not a lot of elevation. And my first race had tons of climbing. I think it had 4 climbs that were over 1,500 feet or close to 2,000 feet. And that was brutal. Those climbs were brutal. After doing 1 or 2, you're okay. But going up and down that many times, I did not train for that. So those smoked me. And so train for the course you're going to, definitely. But do the research. Do the research and find out what are, just do a search on, great races for first-time ultra marathoners and stuff like that, and you'll find locally around where you are some places. And then you just kind of narrow it down from there. What would be easy? Are there some that have hotels around them where you can stay in there the night before, so you don't have to get up at a ridiculous hour and drive 2 or 3 hours to get to them in the morning, especially if they're starting off at 7. Just stuff like that. There's there's so much information on the internet now that there wasn't many years ago. And you can go watch videos. So now you can do the research. I guarantee you, if you have a race in mind, you can go do a search on YouTube, and someone's filmed it, and then you can kind of get an idea of the terrain. Like when I ran the JFK 50 the first time. Before that, I was watching all kinds of videos just to see what it was about. And same with the other races I've done. I just watched tons of videos, read race reports and blogs and stuff like that, and just kind of prepared myself. Printed out the profile, the race profile, and just kind of planned the best I could. But definitely make sure you train for it, especially like Frank said, if you run road miles and you're not getting a lot of trail miles, you're gonna need to get some trail miles under your belt just to make it a little easier on yourself. Yeah, I remember thinking that during my first race, thinking I should have just got a Stairmaster and down here and just did a Stairmaster for an hour a day. It probably would have prepared me better than anything I could have found around here. All right, so I had some funny, not all I'm going to read, but some tips, not some tips, trivia. Let me find this. So I found this list I thought was pretty funny that you guys would find funny. 52 speedy facts about running. And I don't understand this one, so help explain this to me, guys. Think this one out. Noodle this one. It said the most powerful computers on Earth cannot generate the number of computations it takes to run on two legs. So I think it's talking about the complexities of us as runners. And our brains are able to do that. The most powerful computer on Earth. That's crazy. And I think this one right here, most people know. If you've read Born to Run, you know that humans can outrun almost every other animal on Earth over a long distance. So if you guys have read Born to Run, I think they talk about how I think we naturally adapted to running animals down as in packs as humans. If you're wondering what we're doing now, I switched away from the races now. Just for time, I wanted to kind of go through this. And there's some that are weird here. So it says our ancestors developed. I would like to know what you guys think about this. I remember reading the book and pack hunting and things like that, and that's how we were born to run. That we can outrun. I think I watched a video where people did that. Are you guys familiar with that? I think I saw a group of like 3 or 4 ultra runners that tried to reenact that. Project 2, thank you for the super chat, man. I appreciate that. I say man, I don't know if you're a man or woman. I really do appreciate that. I got the zombie running on the treadmill. Thanks for the tips. I do a lot of long hikes on the trails and have been sticking to the streets for my running. Going to start climbing too soon. Well, if you're hiking a lot, that's actually definitely a good training. Anything you can do to kind of mimic the trail you're going to be on, or any of the racing you're going to be doing, is going to be beneficial. Hiking is good because you're going to do a lot of hiking, and I actually talk about in some of my videos that you have to actually practice, and it seems weird to practice power hiking because if you run 50 miles or 100 miles, you're going to be power hiking. You are, and how efficient you are with your hiking and walking, speed walking and things like that. I actually practice, it sounds funny, practice speed walking for that exact reason, to be as efficient as I can with my walking, because especially if you walk, if you're walking 2 to 3 minutes every 15 or 20, you need to have an efficient walking strategy down, or you're gonna pay for it. So it sounds like you got that with all the hiking, and just start transitioning those hikes into runs as best you can. So I appreciate the super chat, and not a problem. I have videos where I talk about all this, so if you do search on my channel, you can find some of that, some of the first time ultramarathon stuff. You'll be able to find some help there. Frank said, seems out of date. The Boston Dynamics robots are running on 2 legs. So that's what I was reading this, and I was trying to find a date, and it's January 26, 2018. Because when I first read that, I'm like, that doesn't sound right, because I thought the same thing you did. I was like, they have robots that are running now, so obviously they've been able to do the computation to figure out that. But I don't know. Who put on this list? This is Fact Retriever. And so I just want to kind of go through some of these, or some of them I won't read on here because they're not necessary, and I'm not sure why they put them on the list. But I agree. Like I think that they could do it, but I still don't think those machines are as good as a human. I don't know, but they do some pretty cool stuff with the things are running, and they push it and try to knock it over. Could probably be better than a human. They're gonna be hunting us down soon, Frank. So heads up. Project 2 said, I definitely power walk when I hit the trails. Absolutely. Absolutely. You get that down, that's half the battle. And see, some of these are silly. He's talking about Band-Aids and Vaseline to cover nipples to guard against friction or chafing. I just thought that. I just posted the other day. I ran a half marathon like 6 years ago with two childhood friends, and one of the guy had blood coming down from on his shirt, and I just started laughing because if you're a runner, you guys have definitely seen that no matter sometimes what you prepare for, as much Vaseline you rub on yourself, you're gonna have some chafing and some bleeding. But I thought that was pretty funny, and you guys will get a kick out of it. You guys know how many miles I run on the treadmill. It's said that the treadmill was invented originally for the English prisons as a tool for punishment. I'm gonna check with you guys. You guys are smart. Does that sound accurate to you guys? That was a tool for punishment? It definitely seems like it would be, especially back in the day when running was not a thing. And actually started getting down here when they're saying back in the day, up until like the 60s, like it wasn't considered normal to go outside running. So men back then, I don't think women would have done it, but men would have to run during the day. And it was sketchy because police would confront you over it, and that was no matter who you are. Like they would find it bizarre that you were just outside running. It wasn't considered a thing to do. Maybe I can find that. And this one has stuff with, women are more predisposed to carry more fat than men, which mean women have to work harder to run at an equivalent pace, which just proves to me that women are stronger than men, because as the distances get further, women actually start to even that out. The testosterone and the muscle mass become less of a factor. Women, I think, are going to take over ultra running one day. It's going to happen. There's some beasts out there. Women are definitely tough. They have to overcome the lack of muscle mass when competing with men and carrying the extra body fat. So watch out, guys. The ladies are coming. They're absolutely coming. Especially when you see Courtney out there. DeWalter, is that her name? She's like my hero. I think I look up to her more than anyone in ultra running. She's just an insane, awesome ultra runner, and she's so mild mannered. You would never think so, that she'd be doing what she does. West Virginia, Don said, I've heard that before. Isn't that what some coaches do to players also? For treadmill being a punishment? I could see it. So Arlene said, yes, there was an article about treadmills in prisons. Frank said it's still like that in Florida, apparently. I have never heard that. I am 44 years old, and I have never, ever heard of this. And especially, I'm purposely like torturing myself on this machine back here all the time. And legitimately, I just want people to understand, I have this machine. I don't choose to do it. I do it out of necessity because I have a large family and I have a wife. And I try to be as fair as I can to all of them with my running and my time that it takes away from them. So I figure it's easier to just do that on a lot of miles on there, and that way I'm close, especially when I was running long runs in 5 and 6 hours that they could come down and be around me. So that's why I do it. This is one I didn't know. And all the babies we've had, it says lactic acid can build up in the body during strenuous running, and which can change the taste of breast milk. I need to talk to my wife about that because we still have a baby, and I had no clue about that. And she's walking into running, so lactic acid can actually affect the taste of breast milk. There's some ones I want to find in here. See if I can find them. Where did they go? Sorry, guys. And runner's knee, I hear this question all the time. Runner's knee is the most common injury for runners that people ask. First off, it's what's asked about all the time. And I'm going to be doing a video to help have people combat runner's knee, ankle issues, plantar fasciitis, which I battled and overcome. So I don't know. How did they find that out? So Frank, I meant that people can't go jogging at night in Florida without people shooting you. Yeah, that is a tough thing. That is definitely an issue. That's what I'm saying. So even back in the day, people found it bizarre for anybody to run at night, and so in some areas, people still find it bizarre, and it could end up being very bad news for some people, which is horrible. I don't want to get into all that, but yeah, that's bad, 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 bad. How did they find out the taste of the breast milk from the lactic acid? I just want to know, like, there's some tests some scientific tests that I find out, like I hear the results, I'm like, I don't understand, like why did they ask that question? Like, that's never come to. I don't know. I do know that it gets changed with what you eat, but I don't know. Harley Nim said, I remember a race director mentioning that men tend to go out too fast in ultras in the beginning. The women will catch up later. And I think that's true. And honestly, that's a real thing. And I've wanted to do videos about that also, that I've read a lot about the studies with women. Typically, men will have an advantage in most athletics because typically, and again, in not every case, will have more muscle mass. So they'll be faster and stronger, obviously. But again, not in every case. But they said ultras and distance running is where that starts to become less of a factor. Like the amount of muscle mass and testosterone pumping through your body is not as much of a factor in an ultra. I don't know. I'm starting to see more and more women becoming super competitive in the races, not just the women's side, but generally in races. So I would love to see that trend. That'd be great. There are some women that are definitely pushing the limits of that, and I think you'll start to see more and more. Because I've always said it, ultras are 90% mental. When you're an elite person, there's a lot of physical part of it, but there's a lot of mental aspects of that, and that's definitely not tied to one gender or another. It's definitely being mentally strong and be able to push through things is something anybody can do. Has one that I brought there. Guy ran an ultra, a marathon from India. Baba Faju Singha from India was 100 years old when he completed the Toronto Waterfront Marathon. He ran in 8 hours and 25 minutes and 16 seconds. I would hope that I could run at 100 years old, but that's crazy. So, I don't care about famous people running marathons. So this one I thought you guys would thought would be interesting. It says, before the 1960s, drinking water was strictly prohibited from races shorter than 10 miles in the United Kingdom. So all you folks in the UK and much of Europe, it was believed that drinking water would make a runner weak. Where do you guys stand on that? Have you guys ever heard? I've never heard of that before. That in the UK, drinking water was strictly prohibited in anything less than 10-mile races. True? Not true? I don't know. This is one of the ones that's starting to get to the ones where I was talking about. In the 1960s, running for exercise was so unusual that some people were stopped by police. People would try to run in the morning because police became suspicious if they saw a grown man running at night. That's weird to me. Like, we're only in 2020. So over the last 60 years, it's become a normal thing for people to do that. Frank says, seems plausible to me. Which one what seems plausible? And this is the other one I actually read this about getting runner's face. I've never heard of runner's face, but it says some ultra runners may develop what is known as runner's face. This is when a runner burns off too much fat from their face too quickly, creating a skeletal appearance. I don't know, for those of you who run the longer distances, have you guys ever seen pictures of your face after? I have seen that, and I usually attribute it to loss of dehydration. So I'll see my face will get really thin, and I'll have a line down from my cheek, and I've seen that in the pictures after I finish ultras and things like that, even after marathons. And I've always attributed that to water loss and dehydration than I would fat burning. Oh, seems plausible. I would never even think about that. I think some of the water stations are a little too close together, especially in some like marathons. They're crazy with the water stations, but I guess they have to, kind of help everyone out there, not just people who probably trained. I know a lot of people that don't train and go out there and do it. They need to keep everybody hydrated and healthy, and they don't want anybody dropping out, dying on the course, or dehydrating to the point of getting injured. Talks about black toenails. I already know what that is. So, enter one in the chat if you've ever lost a toenail. I typically do not get blisters, and I rarely have any issues with my toenails. But always in an ultra, because of the amount of time of my toenails getting pounded, I'll lose. I've lost my big toenail on each foot at least once. And it's not something I always get, but I don't ever get blisters. So, which is good. Arlene says, Jeff Galloway mentioned in one of his books that in marathons in the 1970s, they had maybe 2 aid stations with water. Yeah, I don't know why that changed. I didn't start running marathons until I don't even know how many years ago now. Within the last 15 years, and that's how it's been. So I don't know when they decided, hey, let's put in 14 aid stations. And I think and depending on what races they are, I think that they're trying to, from a safety aspect, I think they're just trying to be safe. I really don't know what prompted all of that. It sounds like people back in the day had to be a lot tougher and train a lot differently than they do now. And actually, it was kind of interesting when I was watching Gordy talk about the Leadville 100, about like, what did people do before plastic bottles, water bottles? Like, how did you carry water? Because they weren't making carry bottles, and they didn't have water bottles. Like, you had to figure out, and they would say they would empty out like alcohol bottles, like for rubbing alcohol, and use those to run with. Like, to me, that stuff's weird. Like, to think it, like, we're so spoiled now that we have all that running equipment. Yeah, like gels. Don says, my wife says I have better feet than she does. I've never lost a toenail yet. I'd never lost one until I ran an ultra. I always thought it was good, but I just think having the right shoe and making sure they're laced up correctly helps. And I don't lose them every time I run. It just occasionally that will happen, and I don't notice it. There's been times where my toenail felt so bad I thought my foot was bleeding inside my shoe. It wasn't, but it felt like it. Frank said the gels and marathon thing feels new to me. So one of the things I typically see in marathons more than anything is I see people that I can always tell the new person in the marathon. Again, I don't have a problem with that. I love people getting into the marathon, but they overdress and they take too much nutrition. And that's one of the things I've learned over the years. That's why another video I want to do is to talk about how to prepare for a marathon, especially in the Marine Corps marathon here. It could be 30 degrees when you start. And I've told you guys how I've cut off clothes where it's stuff I can dispose of. I see so many people overdressing. And when it gets to like 60, 65 and you're in like a jogging suit with a belt that's got 42 bottles around it and you got 40 gels all over you and like you're just this is too much. You don't need all that. So the gel thing, I don't enjoy gels. I try to eat the goos now, not the goos, but the Cliff Bites and things like that. I don't enjoy a lot of gels, and I don't enjoy the Cliff Bites. They're a necessity for me. I like real food, so like ultras. Like I love the 24-hour race I do. That's an interlupal race with a table I can eat real food. I will eat real food 9 times out of 10 if I had the choice to, because I'm not a huge fan of goos. But I will see people that will go out there with like 15 goos, safety pin, and they wear the belts with just all the water bottles around them, and you're in a marathon. They're giving you water like every 3 miles. Like it's crazy. I want to help people out when they go to these races to not overdress and not over carry everything. You're not going out in the Sahara. Is that right? Sahara? Is that a desert? Yeah. Don said, I haven't done a 50-miler yet either. Maybe that's when I'll lose one. Yeah, well, I hope you never lose a toenail, Don. It doesn't hurt. It's not really a thing that hurts. It's just weird when your toenail falls off. There was, like, the first one I lost, I had it, and I sat on a shelf upstairs for a long time, and I would always gross the kids out with it. Dad's got to torture the kids a little bit. David Rowan said, gels make me feel ill. Jelly beans or toffees work for me. Yeah, I think I've had issues with gels just because there's sometimes where I drink Powerade and gels and it just get too much sugar. I don't know the science behind it, but getting too much sugar in me just makes me feel not really good. Like I like drinking water and eating real food. Like if they gave out like cheese sandwiches or like a peanut butter and jelly, like I would wolf down a peanut butter and jelly and just drink water the whole time if I could. Like I would feel much, much better. Like if there's peanut butter and jelly on tables, that's what I'm going to go for. That and like chips and an ultra. But I would do that in a marathon too if it was feasible. Arlene says hyponatremia. People have died in several marathons from drinking too much. Yeah, that's a new phenomenon I was actually reading about that today. That is something that has happened. I think Marine Corps Marathon, I don't know, New York City Marathon lost somebody. It was within, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. They both lost somebody in the same year because people were just drinking too much. I think people think they need to drink too much. You're getting pounded all the time with hydrate, and they're not. I think just people just drinking too much. Like I monitor myself. I weigh myself before I go out and run. I've done all the work to know that I need probably 16 to 18 ounces on a moderately hot day every 5 miles, every 5 or so miles. And so I just try to stick with that. It's not too much, and it's worked out for me. Like when I ran my treadmill 5K, because I wasn't outside in the heat, I probably drank a little bit too much because I actually weighed like 2 pounds more. So I probably drank too much, just trying to make sure I didn't dehydrate. I was sweating like crazy. But it's definitely what people need to kind of keep an eye on that and make sure you're taking enough sodium and electrolytes and things like that, and not overhydrating. Look out here. All right, everyone. Well, I think that's our hour. I want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate you all hanging out. It's been great. Good to see all of the people that are always here, and I'm glad you're here. Sorry if this one was boring. I wanted to try to switch it up a little bit and go through some lists of things. I got some ideas that I want to kind of work through and see how I can get them. It's how am I going to work them on a screen with you guys. So I'm trying to work through that stuff. But I was just trying to bring up some topics for us to talk about, other than just me sitting here talking, babbling on forever, which I still did. So I appreciate you all, and thank you all for supporting me and watching the channel and hanging out here. It means a lot to me, and it's good seeing all of you and talking with you. I hope you all stay well and healthy. Enjoy your runs. Have a good week. Here's to me. I'm going to try to hit 40 miles this week. I'm going to hit 40 miles this week. So see if we can do it. Be safe out there, and thanks for watching, everybody. Oh, before I go, I want to thank Prosner2 again for the super chat, the $4.99 super chat. You rock. All of that goes right back into the cost it goes for running the station. So all of the equipment and the subscriptions that I have for all of the video stuff. There's a lot of costs associated, so that does help. Goes right back into the channel, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And again, all of you be safe, be healthy, and I will see you Friday at 5 Eastern Time. Now you can go. Bye, everyone. Take care.